For Russia, the decision is more than a technical dispute. It is proof, Moscow says, that Western diplomacy is a tool of pressure rather than peace, that framing resonates with Iran and with other states wary of what they see as Western double standards. By rejecting Europe's move outright, Moscow positions itself as both Tehran's defender and as a critic of a global system it claims is dominated by Washington and its allies. The consequences are significant. If Europe's demand succeeds, Iran could face renewed restrictions on arms, banking and oil exports, further isolating a country already under enormous strain. If it fails, it will expose the deep divisions within the Security Council, where Russia and China stand firmly against the West. Either way, the result is more confrontation, less trust, and a shrinking space for compromise. Outside the UN building, the symbolism is clear. Flags of member states fly side by side, but unity is an illusion. Inside, rival blocs trade accusations, while the prospect of consensus slips further away. For the people of Iran, this debate is not abstract. It is about livelihoods, inflation, medicine shortages, and a future clouded by sanctions. For the international community, it is about whether diplomacy still has the power to solve crises or whether confrontation has become the only language left. As Dmitry Polyanskiy walked away from the stakeout, his message was unambiguous. Europe's gambit carries no legal force, no legitimacy, and no path to resolution. Instead, he framed it as a symptom of a broken system, one where threats replace negotiations and where power eclipses principle. In the weeks ahead, the world will watch to see how the Security Council reacts. Will Europe press forward despite opposition from Moscow and Beijing? Will Iran respond with further defiance, accelerating its nuclear advances? Or will this clash, like so many before it, leave the international community paralyzed, unable to act, and unwilling to compromise? At the United Nations, the drama of diplomacy often plays out in words, carefully chosen, fiercely debated, and instantly dissected. But beneath the rhetoric lies a sobering reality. The future of the Iran nuclear deal, once a symbol of hope, now hangs by a thread. And for Moscow, the latest European move does nothing to mend that thread. It only cuts it further. This is the United Nations in 2025, a chamber divided, a treaty weakened, and a reminder that even in the heart of diplomacy, conflict may be louder than consensus. He added, "We do not think that this move by these three countries should entail any action from the Council. This is our very strong and principled conviction. Of course, it will affect the overall climate over the issues related to the Iranian nuclear program." Those words reveal the deeper stakes. Russia knows that even if the procedural effect is contested, the political effect is undeniable. Every escalation against Iran further undermines what remains of the JCPOA and pushes the possibility of diplomacy further out of reach. For Moscow, Europe's step is not only misguided, it is dangerous, another blow to the fragile architecture of arms control. In his final remarks, Polyanskiy sharpened his language even further. He stated, "Once again, we believe that the move by E3, France, Germany and the United Kingdom cannot and should not entail any legal or procedural effect. It's a mere escalatory step. It's something that is absolutely showing that the Western countries do not know what diplomacy is about. They don't care about diplomacy. They care only about blackmail and threats and coercion of independent countries." Such rhetoric reflects more than a disagreement about Iran. It taps into a broader confrontation between Russia and the West, one that has only deepened since the war in Ukraine. By portraying Europe's decision as illegitimate, Moscow reinforces its message that Western powers cannot be trusted to act fairly, whether on Iran, on global security, or on the international order itself. To understand the depth of this dispute, one must return to the origins of the JCPOA. Signed in 2015 after years of painstaking negotiation, the accord was hailed as a triumph of diplomacy. Iran agreed to strict limits on uranium enrichment, intrusive inspections, and dismantling key facilities in exchange for relief from crushing international sanctions. The United Nations Security Council enshrined the deal in Resolution 2231, giving it the weight of international law. But the promise of stability began to unravel in 2018 when the United States, under President Donald Trump, unilaterally withdrew from the agreement. Washington reinstated sweeping sanctions, crippling Iran's economy and sparking furious debate about the future of the deal. Europe tried to salvage it, insisting that Iran must continue to comply. Yet in Tehran's eyes, the balance had already been broken. Why keep promises when the West had abandoned theirs? Since then, Iran has gradually expanded its nuclear activities, exceeding the deal's limits on enrichment levels and stockpiles. Western powers accuse Tehran of moving closer to weapons capability. Iran insists it is acting within its rights after years of broken promises. And now, by triggering the snapback mechanism to restore UN sanctions, Europe has escalated the confrontation to a new level. New York, United Nations headquarters. Once again, the stage of international diplomacy has become the battleground of competing narratives. On August 28, 2025, global attention turned to Iran and to a controversial European push that has reignited old divisions at the heart of the Security Council. At issue is whether France, Germany and the United Kingdom have the right to reimpose United Nations sanctions on Tehran for alleged violations of the nuclear agreement signed a decade ago. The announcement was dramatic, but the response from Moscow was immediate. Russia's deputy ambassador to the United Nations, Dmitry Polyanskiy, stepped before journalists with a simple but firm message. Europe's action has, in his words, absolutely no legal bearing. His appearance was brief, but his words carried a weight intended to echo far beyond the walls of the UN. Polyanskiy's argument is built on a central claim that the Europeans themselves failed to honour their obligations under Resolution 2231, the very resolution that enshrined the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, better known as the Iran nuclear deal. He reminded the press that during the so-called transition day 2 years ago, Europe did nothing to ease sanctions on Iran, despite clear commitments to do so. Instead, Moscow argues, the Europeans are now attempting to turn the tables and punish Tehran for non-compliance while conveniently overlooking their own breaches. In his statement, the Russian envoy declared, this move by European countries, in our view, has absolutely no legal bearing because they were not implementing Resolution 2231 in good faith. For example, they did nothing in terms of lifting sanctions against Iran during the so-called transition day 2 years ago. They are acting absolutely in breach of the JCPOA in each and every sense, letter and spirit of this document. For Moscow, this is not just a legal debate, it is a question of credibility. If Europe did not fulfill its obligations, how can it now claim the right to hold Iran accountable? Russia's answer is clear, it cannot. And the move, Polyanskiy insisted, should have no effect whatsoever on the work of the Security Council.
But I will say that this move by European countries, in our view, has absolutely no legal bearing, because they were not implementing Resolution 2231 in good faith. For example, they did nothing in terms of lifting sanctions against Iran during the so-called transition day 2 years ago. They are acting absolutely in breach of JCPOA in each and every sense and letter and spirit of this document. They have not examined the mechanism, so we do not think that this move by these three countries should entail any action from the Council. This is our very strong and principled conviction. Of course, it will affect the overall climate over the issues related to Iranian nuclear program. It will complicate and breathing space for diplomacy. So once again, we believe that the move by E3 cannot and should not entail any legal or procedural effect. It's a mere escalatory step. It's something that is absolutely showing that the Western countries do not know what is diplomacy about. They don't care about diplomacy. They care only about blackmail and threats and coercion of independent countries. Every option is on the table.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ambassador.
Thank you.